All right, I did this really cool skull pumpkin makeup. If you want to see how I did it, please stay tuned. All right, I am going to do this like pumpkin skull type makeup. Don't worry, I am actually wearing a top. It's just a tube top because I'm gonna be putting makeup on my chest. I have here my Red Bull Italian soda, and I'm so excited because this is, I think, the first actual character type makeup that I've done. Just so you guys know, most of this is going to be very voiceover-esque, but I'll try to hold up my products so that you know what they are as I go. This is gonna be fun. Let's get into it. All right, the first thing that I am doing is blocking out my brows. When you do this, I just use Elmer's glue and really cake it on there and then use a spoolie to brush all of my brow hairs up. This just makes it so I have a good flat surface to work on. And I normally have to do a couple of layers of this. So you'll see me going in just a little bit with my fan and drying everything off because I kind of need to. And then you'll see me go in with a color corrector. So this is the one from Huda Beauty. If you're cursed with dark eyebrows like I am, this is a very essential step. You're not going to be able to completely block out your eyebrows without a color corrector. So the orange color corrector is really perfect for that. So I just go in and use my fingers because I don't want to disturb any of that powder underneath it. And then you'll see me going in with just a little bit more because I felt like I kind of needed. Next, I'm going in with the NARS Soft Paint Pot Concealer, I think it's called. And I love this concealer, especially for spot concealing and things like that. So it makes it ideal for blocking out brows. I'm just going in and finishing up and putting that over the top of what I just color corrected. That, again, perfect for a nice even base. I know this is a lot of work to even just block out your eyebrows, but trust me, it's worth it, especially if you don't want your brows to interfere with the look. This just makes the characters come together so much better. There's definitely been looks that I didn't want to block out my brows, and it's just worth it to do it sometimes. So all right, now I am going in with this Maybelline pencil, and you can kind of barely see it, but I'm just sketching out a few things. I'm starting out with a kind of crooked line kind of coming down the center of my face. This is mostly because I am going to put two different colors on both sides, and I don't want them mixing together. And so I just figured this would be an easy way for me to put that down without it being crazy. And then I also go ahead and sketch out where the skull eyes are going to be. And again, the reason is because I'm going to have orange and black for the base of it, and or orange and white for the base, and I don't want the black kind of mixing in and muddying up the white and the orange. So I went ahead and sketched out those eyes as well. You'll notice that those are pretty much the only things that I sketch out here, and it's mostly just because I don't want to muddy anything else up, but those two pieces I felt like if I didn't sketch out, it wouldn't really work quite the way I wanted to. Next, I'm going in with my Mehron paint sticks. So this is on the one side of my face that I want it to be orange. I'm being a little bit careful of those lines and really packing the color on here. This is going to be my base for that skull. So I'm kind of working my way into the zigzag line and avoiding the eye area because that is where it's going to have the black. And again, I don't want to mess with that too much. And I'm kind of bringing it down my chin just a little bit as well. Next, you'll see me going in with just a finer detail brush and really getting it into that zigzag line that I created so that I have a nice crisp edge. Afterwards, towards the end, you'll see that I also do go ahead and just crisp up that line a little bit more, but this just helps so that I can continue that line all the way down. All right, next I'm grabbing my wet beauty blender and kind of tapping that in and evening out that base, especially after I've gotten all those crisp lines. This base doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be functional because this is not even close to the end step. So I'm just making sure and patting everything in just to get like a decent base with most of it covered. All right, after that's all nice and tapped in, I'm going to go ahead with a orange paint for just a little bit of contouring and kind of giving me some of those pumpkin lines with just a slightly darker orange. I used the City Base. I don't remember what they're called, but they're technically eyeshadow bases, but they were perfect for this because the color was exactly what I wanted. And I could kind of deepen everything out and draw out all of those lines before kind of tapping it in and blending it in, and it was cream. So it worked out really nicely. I feel like we should definitely normalize using the makeup that we have for whatever we need to. I use eyeshadow all the time for this kind of thing, and this time I happen to use an eye base. So, I mean, all right, I am just about finished drawing on those lines. After I finish drawing on those lines, I'm going to go again in with my Beauty Blender. This is the same one that I used for all over my face. And I'm going to tap that in and just kind of blend it into what I already have. It is going to look like I completely messed up my makeup here for just a minute, but those highs and lows are really what's going to start to bring life to this character. And I feel like, honestly, the highlights and contours of any makeup look are super, super essential to really adding just a more three-dimensional character rather than a more one-dimensional look. So this is really important to the character look itself. Next, you'll see me grab the Mayron paint pots just in the palette form, and I'm using a smaller brush, and I'm going to start to sketch out a few things. This is the black detailing. I start with the eyes first because I wanted to make sure that I got the shape right. You can see me in the video referencing my photo of the more not quite circular skeleton shape, and I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. After that's complete, I go ahead and draw some of those lines, and I put them about where you can kind of see some of those dark pieces that I put some of those low lights in. I did that on purpose because I kind of wanted that dimension to show off those lines really nicely. So I can kind of start to see it coming together at this point. I'm still a long ways off from being done, but this is where I feel like things start to kind of look a little bit cool, and it kind of leads to that, oh my gosh, that's a horrible line. I'm like watching it back right now, and it's no wonder I spent so much longer fixing that. All right, and then I start to draw on my skull nose. I went ahead and did it kind of on both sides because it's going to be a skull pumpkin and a skull, so the nose needed to be on both sides no matter what. Afterwards, I start to draw on some of the lines for the teeth. I think this was the hardest part for me, and I used a reference photo a lot for this because I was like, oh, this doesn't look right. And every time I drew a line, I was like, man, really, this doesn't look right. And so I was getting in my head a little bit as I did this because I felt like the lines weren't in the right spot. They looked a little bit strange. I realized afterwards that I honestly was in my head about it, that I was just, stressed for no reason. But that's why you see me kind of looking off to the side a lot, because I was so concerned that I wasn't going to get these lines right. And they're such a small piece of the overall look. Just remember that if you're ever doing a makeup look, you kind of do have to trust the process, especially with character makeup like this, because it's really easy to look at it halfway through and be like, this doesn't look right, or this isn't coming together. And I think that when you try to judge it too soon, of course you're going to think that. I think if I had looked at this makeup halfway through, I would think the same thing. But there is a bigger vision here, and you kind of have to remember that. Also, Halloween is literally my favorite holiday, and I've never understood why people don't like it. Honestly, it's so much fun, and getting to do Halloween makeup, I'm not going to lie to you, I do character makeup all year round, but getting to do Halloween makeup and actually have it be Halloween is my sweet spot. I literally had so much fun. I always forget how much put in together these kinds of looks are until I actually do it. And then I'm like, why don't I do this all the time, 24/7? I mean, I have another job, so obviously I can't do that, but it's so much fun. If you don't have a creative outlet, I'm not going to lie to you, this is a great one. Basically, it's coloring on your face for no other reason except for that you want to. So, makeup is definitely one of my favorite artistic mediums, but it's a blast. All right, back to the makeup look. You can see me start to draw on some cracking and things like that, and just getting a little bit more of that black detailing onto my face. Again, I know that I look a little crazy and it doesn't quite look right yet, but it's coming together, and that cracking and those little details, especially when you're doing makeup like this creative style of makeup, those little details really help it to come together and become the look that you want it to be. I feel like this kind of look can look really flat or unfinished without those little kind of details, the shading, the little cracks. It starts to not look right until you kind of finish that up. All right, next you're going to see me reach for my No Color RCMA powder again. I've just used a lot of cream on my face, and I want to make sure that that is all set really nicely because I like the way it's looking. I don't want that to budge. So I literally grabbed my powder puff and put that all over my face. I feel like when it comes to these kinds of looks, you're going to get real used to putting a lot of layers of powder down on your face because cream comes first and then powder every time. And so this really nicely set canvas is going to be a lot easier to work with, especially because I did all of my creams first. And then I'm going to go in actually with some eyeshadow. I'm using my eyeshadow. It's one of the Juvia's Place palettes to kind of darken out some of those oranges just a little bit more to, again, add some of that brightness back to the look. I'm kind of going around most of the black lines that I already have and kind of darken up some of where I've lost that darkness. Then you see me grab my Chucky eyeshadow and I darken up some of those black lines so that I can kind of smudge them out and do what I want to do with them just a little bit, because that black, some of the RCMA No Color powder kind of dulled out some of what I wanted to be really stark just a little bit. So I soften, or I bring back life to that. All right, I know this is not the original packaging for Blend Bunny. I did depot it, but it's a fantastic palette in case you guys were wondering. I went ahead and started using some white to add some of those white teeth back into this look. I wanted to make sure that I had kind of a diffused whiteness for some of those teeth because I didn't want it to be completely stark once I started to draw it all in with the white. I wanted some of the diffusedness. I went ahead and grabbed some of that Mayron cakes and painted on that white for the teeth and kind of, again, I got in my head about the teeth. I don't know what it was about the teeth, but it kept freaking me out. And I kept looking at my reference photo to make sure I wasn't going to jack those up. I really think that in the end, it turned out really nice. But for some reason, I was so worried about the teeth looking right that I could not stop looking at that photo. We finally made it to the other side. I'm not quite done. There are some finishing touches for the orange side, but I am going in again with the white Mayron paint sticks. These are really fantastic. I can't say that enough. And put that all over, essentially in the same spots that I put the orange, just on the other side. And then detailed everything out with a finer brush. Just to make sure I still had that nice zigzag line and I was going around some of my eye sockets the way that I did on the other side. I did take a separate beauty blender for this side and kind of buffed that in. Honestly, if you're going to ever do this kind of character makeup, you're going to realize really quickly that you use a lot of beauty blenders to make sure that your colors are staying the way that you want them to make sure they're still staying opaque, that you're not mixing colors or making them orange or anything like that. So that is something that I will say, if this is something that you're interested in trying out, just make sure that you do have the tools to do it, because it does take a decent amount of tools, because you don't want certain things. All right, next I did the same thing with my eye, and I started realizing after I painted on this eye that I made this eye bigger than my other side, than my orange side, so I had to go back in and fix it afterwards. So you'll see me kind of take a look at it, realize it's not quite even, and then go back in, which is fun. I feel like with stuff like this, that always happens, where you're looking at it, you're like, that doesn't quite look right. Anyways, I feel like with this kind of makeup, it's just kind of a little bit of trial and error and figuring out what's working and what doesn't. I know for me, I'll try any makeup once, and there's definitely been looks that I've completely scrapped, and I'm so glad that this one didn't turn out that. All right, next I'm drawing a black line just with my zigzag that I had to begin with. This is what I sketched out in the very beginning. So I'm just solidifying that and making sure it's a nice crisp black line, and it looks so much nicer like this. I honestly, after I started looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is looking good. All right, then you see me going and adding in a few more details to the skull. You guys will honestly have to tell me if there's any makeup look that you want to see me do, especially character makeup look, because this is my longer character style makeup look that I've done. This is the only one I've ever done on my YouTube channel. I usually just end up doing shorts and stuff where I transform into something, and this just happens to be the only time I've actually done this. Although I did have some people in my community, my YouTube community, say that this is something they wanted to see, and this was a while ago that they said that. So I don't know, I guess we'll see how this video goes. We have me drawing on the teeth. I feel like this time it went a lot better than last time. I'm not quite much second guessing myself this time around. Alright, I can't be the only one that kept looking at that slightly orange spot where I covered up my brows and blocked out my brows, and was realizing that it was a little bit orange, so I'm just going in and correcting that with just a little bit more powder, because it was driving me nuts. And I couldn't keep looking at it without thinking, oh, it looks like I transferred part of my orange side to my white side, and it was making me mad. So I definitely had to go in and fix that. Then I started going in again and shadowing everything up. This is again the Chucky palette. I just felt like it worked really well, and there's a really nice black in there that works really nicely to kind of deepen up and darken things up, and it was just perfect for this. This is what I'm saying though, kind of use what you have. I found that eyeshadows make great colors for these little details, and I find that especially when I'm doing character makeup, I actually use eyeshadow a lot for looks like this, because I find that first of all, I can find every color that I could possibly want for this, and sometimes the blendability of eyeshadow is it's perfect for looks like this, and you don't necessarily get that with everything. Alright, you see me here going in again with the black Mayron aqua paints and adding in some more cracking and detailing. Again, the devil's in the details. If you don't do the details, it's just not going to turn out the same. So again, just going in and doing some of those detailed things. Anyway, it's interesting to note, I've never actually done a voiceover like this. So if you guys like videos like this, or if you have suggestions on how to kind of spice things up and make things more interesting in the future, let me know, because this has been a lot of fun and a little bit of a learning experience setting up a video that's like this. I can't say that I hate it, it's just different. So now I'm going in and doing again some of those lines. I wanted to have kind of a scarred look going on this side because I have the pumpkin going on the other, and this side was a little empty, and I wanted to make sure that it was a little bit more balanced side to side. Then here's me realizing in just a minute that I didn't do anything on my neck yet. I only brought down the white and the orange, and I'm like, time to actually do something there. So I go ahead and put on some like Halloween. This is all Halloween. I go ahead and put on some clown stripes to my neck. And you can see I really didn't do the best job on that, but honestly, that's not really the focus of this. So I was okay with that being just a little bit messy and a little bit thrown together because it felt like it wasn't really going to affect things all that much. So I'm again going in and adding just a little bit more detail here to make sure everything is really cohesive and nice and just looks good. All right, and then because I am about to put on a wig, I go ahead and put my hair in a low bun because that'll just get my hair out of the way for my wig. So I feel like whenever I put on a wig, I always have issues getting it placed just right. And so this takes me just a minute to situate it and make sure that I have my hair where I want it to be and combing it out. If you've played with wigs, you kind of know how this process goes. And I want to make sure that it looks good before I pop in my contacts because I can't see anything once I put my contacts in. Please keep in mind that if you're going to wear colored contacts, go to your eye doctor first. I have worn contacts since I was a child, and I still kind of struggle, especially with all of this makeup on because I wear contacts regularly. I can't see anything once these are put in, and I want to make sure that I'm not getting it all over the makeup. But you'll see me, I do a jump cut because I couldn't get the contacts in on camera. So that's the finished makeup look. I hope you guys liked it. This was so much fun, and I feel like I like the way that it turned out. It's kind of creepy, kind of fun, kind of just, yes.